Hey man, it's me, and we thought we'd start with special effects. Wasn't that special? Isn't that awesome, man? There's a production value to this shit now. Ash, turn it off. It's annoying. Listen to it. And plus, we'll probably get sued by Disney for using that sound effect. Hey, welcome to my Facebook live Q&A. Now, I do this normally from the comfort of my own home, and it looks like low-grade pornography. But here we are at the Facebook offices in New York. Look at this shit. There are lights. There are 2 cameras. This is as professional as it gets and stuff. So it doesn't feel like the homegrown affair I'm usually used to. Had I known there were this many lights, I would have showered this morning. But I didn't. I just shaved. So in any event, we're going to dive into the Q&A, man. I'm doing a Showtime comedy special. I'm not doing it. I did it. I shot it the night that I had a heart attack. And the good folks at Showtime were lovely enough to be like, oh my God, let's put this on TV so people can see if they can see you about to die. And I was like, okay. And so May 11th, it airs on Showtime, and then, goes all wherever you can watch Showtime. I watch Homeland every week, usually on my phone. I'm going to watch my fat ass right after that. So I had a heart attack 2 months and change ago. I've been talking about it everywhere. I was on the Colbert Show last night talking about it and stuff. But I'm out here talking about the Showtime comedy special. So the good folks at Showtime grabbed some questions in advance while the questions build up for this Facebook Live thing. So I'm sure these are going to be tough questions. Here we go. Do you have a favorite between making movies, the podcast, and stand-up? Melissa L. asks. I do, actually, and that is a good question. I thought that might be a softball, but this is hard. Let me think about it. No, I'm kidding. I like podcasts because it's you and a microphone, and sometimes you and a friend and a microphone, and when you and a stranger and a microphone. And by the end of like the chat, usually an hour or 2 hours, you've gone somewhere without ever leaving your seat. Podcasting is, I'm not very good with visuals, which is weird because I've been a director for 25 years, but I can tell a story, and podcasting is probably the easiest venue in which to do that. Stand-up is also fun and gratifying because it's instant gratification. You say something funny, people laugh right there, and you're like, ah. But podcasting doesn't require you to shower, doesn't require you to get dressed. You could literally wear what you were wearing to bed and stuff like that. Somebody shows up at your house at 9, you're like, oh, fuck, I forgot we're podcasting. And then they come and you're doing a show like 10 minutes later and stuff. No prep whatsoever. So I love that. And also it gives me a chance to highlight people that I think are interesting. When I'm a filmmaker, that's highlighting me. That's like, look at me. That's the version of when you're a kid and you come home with a paper. I don't know if they have paper in schools anymore. Now, if you're a kid and you come home with a tablet and you show your parents, I got an A. They used to like put your paper up on the fridge, magnet. My mom did that shit. And that's what making a movie is like. It's like getting your paper put up on the fridge because it's very high profile and people know there's money involved. This is a very serious endeavor. Podcasting is anybody could do it, so most people think of it as very disposable. But for me, that's where I'm strongest because listen, look at me flap these gums. I'm an oralist. Ask my wife. So at the end of the day, podcasting is the perfect place for me to be. Also, nothing to look at. So, being there in person for a stand-up event and whatnot, like you watch the Showtime special on May 11th, plug, you'll see that like, oh my God, I'd rather just listen to this fat ass. So podcasting is my ultimate strength because in podcasting, you don't even see what I look like and whatnot. And instead of showcasing me and like, this is what I do, look how talented I am. On a podcast, I get to sit down with other people and showcase them. So Smodcast, which is a podcast I've been doing for 11 years now. I did I still do with Scott Mosier because I wanted to shine a light on Scott Mosier, my producer. I thought he was funniest person I ever met, and interesting as fuck. So we started doing that podcast together. As much as I loved him, I felt even more in love because I got to put him up on a pedestal, and people were like, that guy's funny. I was like, right? And then after a few years, like, he's funnier than you. And I was like, hey, fuck that, but everyone gets their place and shit. So I did that with Scott. I do another podcast called Hollywood Babylon with my friend Ralph Garman. That's live. We do it in front of an audience at the Improv on Melrose in Los Angeles every week, and then we take it on the road. Jay and Silent Bob Get Old was a podcast that I still do with Jason Mewes, going on 8 years now. The guy who plays Jay and my Silent Bob, the guy who I stand next to in life, professionally and personally and stuff. And it was about his sobriety. We started that podcast to keep him off the heroin and the OxyContin. He was a bit of a junkie back in the day. Podcast's been very good about keeping him away from that sort of stuff. That's also a live sort of thing. And that was also me focusing a light on, look, you know him from the movies, but like, this is the real guy, and he's way more interesting than that fucking character he plays. And at the same time, it killed two birds with one stone because his friends, we all knew that, he had a drug problem, but it was very quiet, kept it, from the public and stuff. And so I said, hey, if you do this show, the podcast, then we're not the only people like keeping our eye on you, man. Like the world becomes your sponsor, motherfucker. Like anybody sees you fucked up, they'll be like, you're not supposed to be that way. So it's been very helpful. I mean, he makes his own decision every day to be sober. Don't get me wrong. It's not just the podcast, but the podcast was a very helpful device to get him on that road and stuff. And more importantly, it was a way to show off my friend and be like, here he is. You think the character he plays is fun? Here he is. What else do I do? Fat Man on Batman, which is one of my favorite shows to do. We do at the Scum and Villainy Cantina. That's also live in Los Angeles. This bar that my friend JC owns that looks like the bar from Star Wars, but not enough to get sued, just close enough to not infringe on a trademark. It's a wonderful place to drink. I'm not a drinker. I'm obviously a stoner. But if you're a drinker, it's the only bar I've ever been to in my life where like nobody fights. Like, even if they get really fucked up, the biggest fight I ever saw was a Marvel versus DC. And, those things usually end in a hug-off. Everyone hugs it out. So, podcasting. Long story short, Melissa L., podcasting. See? Just blah, blah, blah. Aaron C. says, oh, shit, go back. So excited to see your comedy special on Showtime. Thank you for the plug. What's your favorite part about stand-up comedy? Instant gratification. I'm an American. So I like things to feel good as often as possible, every moment of my day. Now, it's not humanly possible, and everyone else around the world knows this, but we raised here in America believe in constant happiness. So when you're doing stand-up, like when you record a podcast, it has to get posted, and then when it's posted, people listen to it, and then like 2 hours later or whatever, you start hearing from them. When you make a movie, the process is even longer. You have an idea, and like a year later, they see it. And, like the time between like, ooh, wouldn't this be great? And the time that everyone can agree whether it was great or not is a long span of time. When you're on stage, instant gratification. You say shit, people are right there live, they're laughing. There's something nice about knowing these cats left their house to come see you and stuff, like, fucking money's tight, and like that they spend their entertainment dollar on you means the world, man. Seeing the faces of the people that buy tickets to the stuff that you do is also kind of breathtaking. So that's what I get out of stand-up, man. And the stand-up special I shot for Showtime that you so graciously mentioned was the one that I was shooting the night I had my heart attack. So if you watch it, you could look for symptoms all throughout the hour long. Like, oh, I can see it. Look at the fucking temple throbbing and shit like that. He's sweating, but I sweat when I fucking breathe. So, haha, that's not even proof. Okay, Bridget G asks, how do your wife and daughter feel about the stories you tell about them on stage? That's an interesting question. My kid doesn't really pay attention. Every once in a while, she's just like, I heard you said something about me. I was like, I say a lot of shit about you. She's like, all right. She doesn't, she's certainly aware of me and what I do for a living, and she's been involved in some of those things. But, she doesn't dive deep into my well. So, every once in a while, I think the weirdest she ever got with me was I told her that I told a story about her boyfriend. She's been dating this guy, Corey, for 5 years, who I love. Absolutely. I'm not like one of those fathers who's like, you better not fuck my kid. Like, I'm a realist and shit. And they've been together 5 years and stuff. And my office is right over her bedroom. So, like, I've liked this kid from the jump, man. First week, they started dating like freshman year in high school. I had my eye on him and stuff. Not in that dopey fucking like, father of the bride kind of way. I'm not Steve Martin. But I was just, hey man, this is the guy that, she's giving her heart to and stuff. And he was like Lloyd Dobler. Like, he was just like, everything she said was fascinating to the point where I was like, ease up, buddy. She's not that interesting. But like, he was deeply into her. Not just like, oh my God, I want to see her naked, which I'm sure was involved somewhere, but more of like, I like her. I like who she is and what she says and what she stands for and stuff like that. So I told my wife, I was like, these two are adorable, man. I told my kid, I said, marry this boy this week. And my wife's like, you're high. They're 14. I was like, yes, I'm high, but that has nothing to do with this. I was like, do you ever see Coal Miner's Daughter, Loretta Lynn movie? I said, she got married at 14. Everything fucking worked out well for her, man. She's queen of country and shit like that. So that my wife wouldn't let him get wed and stuff. Scandal, I guess. So they've been dating for 5 years, and I absolutely adore him. He's great. So I every once in a while, like when she does something funny in my life or whatever, if it involves Corey, it winds up being a story that I'll tell on a podcast. I do a lot of podcasts, so life is about content. Here's a helpful tip: if you're ever like, I want to try one of these podcasts, you should, because they're free and anybody could do them. Nobody could stop you from doing it right now. Don't cost you. Talk to whoever about whatever the fuck you want. Your own show. Could you imagine shit like that? So when I forgot the point that I was going to make. Fell down a pothole. My bad. It seemed like important information too. I was like, this will change your life. Now I forgot the fuck I was going to say. Oh, if you were to make a podcast, you should do it. Fuck, I forget where I was going. It was good. It'll hit me in a few seconds. I'll try to circle back. In any event, I talked about, content. I remember the point. If you record a podcast, nothing bad ever happens to you ever again because it's all content. Yeah, bad things can happen. I literally had a fucking heart attack, which I have been milking for the last 2 months for content. Like, because people are fascinated, like, you almost died. And I'm like, I sure did. Here's the fucking story. So, like, even that, which is harrowing and stuff, just becomes anecdotal and stuff. You know, whatever happens to you in your life is stuff for you to talk about. So you get to cognitively reframe it as like, oh, I can't wait to tell this fucking story. Just a helpful tip. Another reason to do a podcast if you're ever thinking about it. So in any event, since I do a lot, it requires a lot of content. You don't want to say the same shit over and over again and stuff. So anything that happens in your life, you're like, oh my God, that's great. I'll use that. So I told a story about Corey, and my kid was just like, you can't tell stories about him. He's not your son. I was like, after 5 years, he's my common law fucking son. Yeah, he eats in this house. He lives in this house. There's other things he does in this house. He gets told stories about. And she was like, okay. And that was the deal I got with my wife. Like, I told the story for years. It was on one of the Evening with Kevin Smith DVDs about the first time we had sex and how, like, you know, irresponsible it was. And how I mean, this is kind of, cover your ears if you're not into this shit. Cut my like dick open because we were just grinding on the couch. I was wearing jeans. She was wearing jeans. And like, then she was like, come into the bedroom. She went to the bedroom and I was like, out. And I looked and we ground so hard, like on the couch, that the zipper of my jeans shorts, my jorts, ripped my fucking, for lack of a better description, dick almost in two. And then this beautiful woman was like, come into my bedroom. I was like, how am I supposed to get this done? But I got it done. The irresponsible part of the story is it was unprotected sex with an open wound. And I was like, it was like dipping my dick in battery acid. But the story is a happy ending because we've been married for 19 years. So it works out. You know, and for a minute there you were judgy. You were like, ew, you fucking piece of shit. But that's my wife, bitch. How dare you say that shit about my wife? And we have a child. That's the mother of my child, you judgmental pricks. So, yes, in any event, my wife was at an event where I told that story. And I've been telling that story for like 2 years or whatever. And she was finally in a room when it happened. And after the show, she looked pale as a ghost with these wide eyes like an anime character. And she was like, what the fuck are you doing out there? Did you just tell people that we had unprotected sex and you had an open wound? And I was like, yeah, but you heard the part where I was like, we've been married for like 2 years. It all works out. She's like, oh my God, that makes me look terrible. I was like, it makes you look like the queen of my world, man, that you were so important. I put aside all rational judgment and it all worked out. You know, I spun it to my favor. But after that, she was mad for a little while. I said, hey, like, this is what I do. You know that. Like, I've talked, like, you know, so whatever happens to us, like, is fair game, you know. Of course, unless she was like, don't tell stories about this. Like, one time, there's this thing. No, I'm not going to tell you that story. But so she did get mad once about 10, well, oh, shit, that was 17 years ago. God, it all goes by in a blink. That felt like yesterday, but now I just did the math. I was like, oh my God, we've been married 19 years. It was 2 years into our marriage. So it was 17 years ago. My wife had a problem with it. And now she's just like, you know, fucking, he tells his stories, whatever. My wife loves me to death, man. And if you threaten me, she'd fucking cut your jugular. Like, she's very protective. But she is not what I would call, by any stretch of the imagination, a Kevin Smith fan. Like, she's not watching this right now, I can promise you that. The idea of watching Kevin Smith talk and not being able to interrupt and say, shut the fuck up, Kevin, that would break her fucking brain, man. Loves me, but like my shit and my talking, she's like, that's what you do on the internets. Get a wife who understands, folks, or a husband, or both, if you're really lucky. All right, man, here we go. Next question. Christina T. asks, is there anything you took for granted that you have a different perspective about after your near-death experience? What a great question. Absolutely. But it's not like the shit you see in TV movies. Like, I didn't have an Ebenezer Scrooge moment where I was like, boy, get me a goose. Because honestly, that would be scandalous. TMZ would run a clip of that, of Smith tells boy to get goose. Sexual, question mark and stuff. That was, if you don't remember, that's from A Christmas Carol. Written by, fucking, remember that story? Scrooge, Tiny Tim? Anyway. So, I didn't have that. There was no moment where I was like, everything's, changed. Now I'm going to be a different man. I've always tended to live my life like in a kind of, not a Nike, just do it kind of way. But like, there's shit you want to do, try it. Like, you're going to die one day. I mean, I was always living under this philosophy, and then one day I almost died. But I was always like, one day you're going to die, man. Like, my father died screaming. So I was like, one day you're going to die screaming. We all go out of this world fucking screaming. Even good men die screaming. My father was a pretty decent dude. So I said, hey, man, in a world where you're going to die screaming, there's no point in not trying to make every one of your dreams come true, like while you're here and stuff like that. Will all that shit into existence. Unless your dream is like, oh, I've always wanted to hunt children. I'm not talking to you. Those is a bad dream. These are positive fucking dreams where kids don't get fucking murdered. So I've always lived that way. So it wasn't like after the heart attack, I was like, well, now I'm really going to go for it. Man, I don't know if you ever saw that fucking Walrus movie, but I've been going for it for like 25 fucking years. Only an idiot who wants to see every one of their fucking internal whimsies come true makes a movie like Tusk, or Yoga Hosers for that matter. So I've always had no problem trying to like live life to the fullest, at least as I see it. I'm not an outdoorsy type. A lot of people be like, live life to your fullest, go climb a mountain. We got a hill in my yard. I'm fucking good. So I'm talking about like making shit, self-expressing. That's my big thing in life. So after the heart attack, none of that changed. Like, in fact, when I was laying on the table and the doctor was going up my groin to my femoral artery to open up the fucking blocked LAD over my heart and stuff, I had time to think and stuff. And I didn't have regret. I wasn't sitting there going, oh, God, I want to live and fucking Jesus save me. Because I thought Jesus would be like, you made dogma, go fuck yourself and die, So I just didn't do any of that. I just laid there and thought about my life and was so happy and grateful for everything that had happened and the adventure I'd gone on, the family I have, the profession that I did and stuff, and all the weird directions it went. So I didn't feel bad, except for the one thing I had to regret about was we're very close now. I think in August we're going to start a sequel to Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back called Jay and Silent Bob Reboot. So while I was laying on the operating table, I was like, fuck, if I die, because they told me I had an 80% chance of dying. When you have a blocked, 100% blockage in that LAD, that artery is called the Widowmaker because it kills so many people. So 80% chance of dying, 20% chance of living. So I was just like, all right, when I leave the house, it's usually 50-50 because you could be hit by a car, struck by lightning, or trip over a dog who then bites your fucking artery and rips it out and you bleed to death. And you're like, but I loved dogs and shit like that. But so, you could always die. But 80-20, those are not good odds. So I sat there going like, fucking, what is your regret? My only regret was we hadn't made Jay and Silent Bob Reboot because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. And the last movie I made was Yoga Hosers. Fuck! So I wanted to go out on one where people are like, whew, we liked that one. So that was my only kind of regret. And I know we're getting to it, now. And I was, after the heart attack, of course, there was concern of like, what about ongoing health? The big change, the thing I changed that I didn't take, I guess I took my health for granted. So much so that I didn't even realize I was having a heart attack at age 47. I was like, I'm too young. This could not be a heart attack. That happens to old people. But it happens to people who, like, my doctor told me, he's like, this didn't start recently. Because I told him, I said, like 3 years ago, I took off 85 fucking pounds. And I walk a mile and a half up a hill every day with a tiny little miniature dog skin. Yes, it's very funny. Fat man with a little dog. But I do it. And I'm exercising. I said, cut sugar out of my life. I dropped 85 pounds. He goes, let me tell you something. The kind of blockage you had, that started way long ago. It's a good thing you changed your life when you did, because it probably saved you from having this heart attack a few years ago. But the kind of blockage you had happened, that starts back in childhood. So I was like, goddamn fucking Twinkies, which I used to eat a lot. And then I remembered we were poor, so we couldn't afford Twinkies. So I was a goddamn little Debbie Swiss Delights that I used to eat a lot and shit like that. Clogged up my shit. So post heart attack, I said, all right, the change I should make is I should take my health seriously. Like, because of Clerks, like I made this movie years ago. I was like 22 years old, 23 when it came out, when it happened. 23, my life changed and shit. Suddenly, like, you're a fucking professional filmmaker. And I was like, I am. And then I made Mallrats. People were like, no, you're not. And then I made Chasing Amy, and people were like, you are. Like, my career's been like this. But in any event, back when Clerks happened, Like, this fucking made a movie on credit cards with my friends, and then suddenly one day somebody picked it up, and it makes you feel like, oh my God, I was right. Like, I'm a genius. So nobody could tell you shit anymore. And, I'm very independently willed and stuff like that. So, nobody could tell me shit. And when you get famous or whatever, people know you for your job, they stop telling you the fucking truth the way they used to. So nobody ever goes, you are fucking morbidly obese, you fat piece of shit. You're going to die one day. People are like, hey, big guy, how you doing? You get called big guy a lot. And you get used to big guy because you're like, yeah, big guy, top guy. That is me, isn't it? But you forget that has everything to do with your fucking weight and stuff. So 25 years I've been doing this job, being Kevin Smith professionally. And 25 years of eating whatever the fuck I want while people called me big guy. Even when I got real fucking big and shit like that. They threw me off a fucking plane at one point for being so big. So I just never, processed it. Every once in a while I try to lose weight. Weight loss is a struggle my whole life and stuff, up, down, up, down. But I never took my health seriously. Even when I was trying to lose weight, I wouldn't like do it the right way. I'd be like, ooh, what's this fucking diet? This makes sense. So what changed after the heart attack was I had, the nutritionist came in the day, night I had a heart attack. So the morning after I was in the hospital, they don't let you out and shit. And nutritionist came in and said, look, I ain't telling you how to live your life, but you had 100% blockage in that artery. Maybe you might want to consider going plant-based. And my kid, who's been fucking vegan for like 3 years, and the little like Jiminy Cricket on my shoulder going, stop eating cows. That, I was drinking milk at one point, and she goes, not your mom, not your milk. And I was like, what the fuck's that mean? She's like, does that come from your mother? And I said, I fucking hope this is not grandma's titty milk. Of course not. And she says, not your mom, not your milk. So she never like really fucking beat up on me and said, be vegan. But she always wanted me to go vegan. Hers is more, of an ethos. Like she loves animals. And so she can't imagine harming one to eat them. I love animals too, but I was raised to be like, these you love, these you eat. So, my mindset was different. After the heart attack, all bets were off. So the nutritionist is sitting there going, you might want to think about going plant-based. So I said, well, I ate the way I wanted to eat for like 47 years, man. I did whatever the fuck I want. If I wanted cake for breakfast and lunch and dinner, I ate it and shit like that. Nobody ever put the brakes on. So I said, if I could do that for 47 years, I can literally try going vegan for at least 1 year. See if I could do it, man. And I realized the only shit I really had to eliminate from my diet was milk and dairy, milk and cheese. And cheese I was okay to let go of and stuff, but milk, oh my God. Like this is sad to admit, but I used to, my last physical checkup, I saw my doctor, my GP after the heart attack. And so she was like, where you been? I said, hey man, I fucking saw you last year for my physical. And she goes, that was 3 years ago. I was like, oh, no wonder I almost fucking died. So last time I'd had a physical, that's why I didn't go back for 3 years. After the physical, she goes, everything's great. She's going, except like, I'm looking at your cholesterol level here. It looks high. And she said, what are you eating? And I said, well, I drink a lot of milk. And she goes, oh, all right. She's going, did you drink milk right before the test? I said, yeah. She goes, how much? I was like, about 2 gallons. And she goes, are you kidding? What? And I said, yeah. She goes, how? And I was like, just gurgle, 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 gurgle. Shit's good, right? And she's like, maybe not so much milk. Can you come back in? And I retook my blood test, and then my cholesterol levels were better. And so she just stopped bugging me about the milk. But I was literally telling my doctor, I was like, milk is good for, like arguing with the fucking doctor. I don't do that anymore. So milk had to go away. I know I'd missed that, but whatever. So now I just drink water and fucking iced tea, unsweetened iced tea. Life comes down to colorless 2 choices. But to be fair, that's kind of what you're supposed to. I think naturally you're supposed to be just drinking water. Like all this, like, let's put sugar in this shit. I get it because like water's boring as fuck and putting any flavor in it makes it a party in your mouth and shit. But that's not what we're supposed to be doing, I guess. I ain't saying don't do it. I mean, I just did it for a lifetime. Now all I drink are those 2 things. And then what were the other 2 things I had to give up? Turkey and chicken. Big fan of fowl. Giving up meat like hamburger and shit was kind of easy. I don't eat a lot of red meat. But the chicken and turkey, man, that was the building blocks of my fucking life and stuff. And in kind of rewiring my thinking, like I'm a Weight Watchers ambassador now. I sat there going like, do you really like turkey? Because I realized that I didn't. It wasn't so much that I fucking love ripping off a piece of a turkey breast and fucking eating that shit, like, without any help. Like, no, of course not. What I love is gravy smothered all over that turkey, and that makes that turkey edible. So I don't really love turkey. I love gravy and shit like that. So I realized, all right, you're not really missing anything by saying goodbye to turkey because you weren't going to be eating gravy anyway because of the fucking heart and shit. And salt. Salt's got to come out of your diet. I put salt on everything. I put salt on salt, man. I'm like, this ain't salty enough. So that and chicken. Chicken, this is the new questions. You could take that. Thank you. Chicken. It was getting too heavy, that iPad. They gave me a lighter version because the heart, you see. Chicken I gave up, and I used to think I love chicken, but I realized I just love barbecue sauce or the shit that I put on chicken more than anything else, or the coating when you get fried chicken or something like that. So once I stepped away from food, like I don't eat as much as I used to. I honestly probably eat like one meal a day now. I've learned to fast, like to just kind of put food down. But then I joined Weight Watchers, and they got like a point system, which is kind of easy to follow and stuff. I get like 32 points a day to spend as I want. I don't even spend them, the whole 32 and stuff. But the weird thing is they introduced this thing called Freestyle, and there's a list of foods that have 0 points. So you can eat as much as you want, and they don't cost anything. So you can get full on them, and you'll still lose weight. Top 2 items on that list: turkey and chicken. I was like, no, it could have been a fucking foul orgy for my whole life and I would have lost weight. So luckily on the list is pinto beans. I'm a big pinto beans whore as well. So I was asking my coach, Weight Watcher, I was like, are you fucking shitting me? Pinto beans, 0 points, so I can eat as many pinto beans as I want? What if I overeat on pinto beans? She's like, nobody has ever come to Weight Watchers and said, I eat too many pinto beans. She's like, you're fine. So yeah, I changed my life after the heart attack, but not like now I'm going to climb those mountains I never climbed and shit, unless I'm exercising, then I'll do a bit more of that. It was more about changing my overall health. So I went vegan. I used to be very happy, and now I'm fucking vegan. But it's and it's not even a moral thing where I'm like the animals, although I'm a big animal fan. It's self-preservation. It's like I've seen where the alternative leads to. It put me on a table, and I almost died. And I was naked, and a man was going up my groin and reaching into my heart. I mean, all of that sounds fucking horrible. So I'd rather eat some fucking plant-based food and not have to face that possibly again than like be like, ooh, this cheeseburger, and then wind up back on that table 2 years later with the guy going, didn't we tell you to put the cheeseburger down and stuff? So that was the big change. Okay. This is weird because now I'm seeing me. Let's see. Grabbing random. Tabitha Madison Carmian says, I just want to hang out with you, hang out and smoke with you and Jay. That would sound fun, but A, Jay's sober. So, he just stares and remembers a time when he enjoyed life and stuff like that. It's cruel to do to him. But B, he never really liked weed. But C, I'm not a fun smoker. People assume that like, oh my God, you must be a trip. Total, like I put on 80s music and get blazed. And because it takes me to, music is a real time travel machine. Fuck the DeLorean. You want to travel in time and you put on a tune, you don't even have to get blazed, but this fucking helps. You put on a tune, and it usually takes you back to like key moments in your life when you heard that. Maybe that's just a middle-age thing. I'm 47, so that's what happens. But music's always sentimental and nostalgic for any age. I remember being nostalgic for music when I was fucking 12. So like I was a kid. What was I being nostalgic about? Like Seasons in the Sun was a song from the 70s. And when I was 12, I was like, that reminds me of being young. And I was still fucking young. What a ridiculous thing. So music, very, very powerful thing. So I smoke like pre-show. Whenever I do a show, I'll smoke and I'm in a bathroom somewhere right before I go on stage, smoking and listening to tunes. If I have my phone, where's my phone? I'll tell you my playlist. It's fucking embarrassing. My kid is always just like, don't share your playlist. And I was like, I won't, but I'm going to do it right now. Let's see. This is the shit that I get blazed to. And I'm not proud of this. I'm just sharing it. This is what 47 looks like. Hold on. First try at Spotify. I have one category. All the music I ever put in. Okay. Simple Minds, Don't You Forget About Me. Then we go to Marvin Gaye's Sexual Healing. Then, which is like, it's not even like that's my fuck music. Like that was just a song that was popular when I was like 12, when I first started tape recording music off the radio. Kids, you're like, what? Why didn't you download it? Well, there was no internet back then. And so they'd play music on the radio and you'd have a little tape recorder and you put a cassette in, you hold it next to the radio and then you press record and play at the same time. And it would record that song and you made what was called a mixtape. That was before you got if you were lucky or rich enough to have a rack system where, the tape, 2 tape players were built into it, a turntable and shit. But old Steez back in the day, I grew up real poor and shit. I was a government cheese eater, and that's how I built this body. I'd record music off the radio, so I recorded Sexual Healing and didn't even really understand what it meant at the time. Now I listen to the lyrics and I'm like, he's talking about fucking. Everybody Wants to Rule the World, one of my favorite songs by Tears for Fears. Let's Groove by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Love My Way by the Psychedelic Furs. Drive by the Cars. Here's the scandal point. Now, most people be like, that's not shameful up till now. Easy Lover by Philip Bailey and Phil Collins, the double fills, man. I Phil squared it, and I still have that song on my current list. It's an old song from the 80s and shit, but I still kind of rock it on my playlist. The weird thing is I've raised my kid being around this music, and so her Spotify playlist resembles mine. She listens to a lot of music that didn't existed long before she was ever born, man. She sings a lot of 80s songs, and my wife's like, you broke our daughter, you piece of shit. Don't Disturb This Groove by The System. You don't even know what that song is, but listen. Come on, man. Just blaze with me. Light a joint, smoke it. You can't do that, right? My bad. Oh, we're done? Yeah, we're done. Fucking, it's over. It's finished. They woke me up, brought me here, and now it's fucking done, man. This has been a lot of fun. I'm glad you guys hung out. Don't forget, Showtime special airs May 11th, and if you have the Showtime app like I do, you can watch it anytime after that at your leisure. You can literally watch shit on the toilet. I watch Carrie Mathison lose her shit while I take a shit. That's my fucking plug for Showtime. What else can I tell you about? Hey, if you're in the New Jersey area, I'm doing a signing at Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash on Saturday of my Funko Pop. They made Funko Pops of me and stuff. So we're having a signing. Cruise on in there. If you're in Canada, I come up to Canada next week to do shows in Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, and Winnipeg and stuff. And then that's it. I guess that's all I got to talk about, man. And if you want to lose weight, join me in Weight Watchers. I'm a Weight Watchers ambassador. It's me, DJ Khaled, and Oprah. I'm rubbing elbows with big timers, man, and shit. It pays to be fat, kids, as long as you lose it. Then everyone gets happy with you and stuff like that. And as long as you lose it, it's better for your health. Try not to yo-yo. Listen to me. Don't take advice from me. I nearly almost died of a fucking heart attack 2 months ago. So take it with a grain of salt. No, don't take any salt because that's bad for your heart. There it is. Thanks for hanging out, man, on this Facebook Live. Next Facebook Live I'm doing on my own leisure from home is going to be my Avengers Infinity War review. I wanted to wait over the weekend because normally I do a review for Fat Man on Batman, and people are like, I didn't even fucking see it yet, you piece of shit. So I waited because, the Avengers got a lot of spoilers in it. So I waited until I'll do it either today or tomorrow, and then I'll put it up. So that's the next time I'll be there. It won't look like this. It's going to look like the crack house version that I do at home, holding it with my hand and stuff. That sounded dirtier than I meant it. All right, thanks for being here. Bye-bye.